Hey there, doing a 10K service, actually a 30K I think it is, which is basically a 10K on this 2013 Roadking with a little add-on trike kit. A couple of things that are often overlooked on a 10K, either the dealership doesn't do them or the owners that do them themselves don't do them, that are kind of pet peeves. You're putting plugs in here. Put a little never sees on the plugs before you put it in, just a little dab. You don't need to overdo it. And while you got the plug wires off, wouldn't hurt to put a little dielectric grease up in the end of the boot there. Just a little dab too. Uh, Another thing that tends to happen a lot, and people don't ever check them, this shift lever right here, you want to feel it if it feels loose at all. And you can tell this one isn't really loose. That's just the shaft moving back and forth. But if you think it's loose, and you probably should anyway, I'm getting ready to, throw an Allen wrench on there. It takes a 1/4 inch ball Allen. You just want to snug it up. If you get industrious and want to pull it out, if it's loose, take it out. Look at the bolt. If it's got a big strip mark in the center of the bolt where it's been loose and riding back and forth on the shaft like that, you probably want to replace the bolt. Red Loctite on there. Same with the front here. You want to feel that one. If it's got any play in it, red Loctite, pull the bolt out, red Loctite it. This one here actually is pretty loose. I'm going to go ahead and pull that bolt out and red Loctite it. Clutch adjustment on this thing. Don't just adjust the cable. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're going to pull the derby cover off anyway to change the fluid in here. I've already changed the fluid and adjusted the clutch on this one. But what you're going to do is slacken the cable up all the way so the lever goes all the way back to the bars. You want to lube the hell out of the cable. I use a dry slide liquid graphite with a little pen needle. Very easy to use. Lube the hell out of it. You'll thank yourself later. While you got it slackened up and you're dripping lube down in the cable, you're going to, with the derby cover off, I'm not pulling this back off here. It's 11/16 lock nut and I think a 1/4 inch drive Allen socket or Allen bit to turn the adjuster. You're going to crack the lock nut loose, turn the adjuster in until it just lightly touches. You'll feel it touch the push rod in the center. Just lightly touch it, and then back it out a half turn, and then lock the lock nut down. Then you adjust the cable back till you got about 3/16 play up at the cable here. I've already lubed and adjusted this one. You're going to check your belt. That one I need to adjust. It's a little bit loose. I think it should be on these baggers. I think it's 3/8 of an inch. You don't want your belt to run loose. It's going to rip the teeth off of it. And you can tell if you ever see one where the teeth are stripping out, or separating from the belt. It's from whipping the belt. It'll start to pull the teeth off. And if you look at the side of the belt, you'll see where the teeth are separating from the body a little bit. If you see that, you probably need to put a belt on there. Top motor mount here. The one in the center, you want to check that. I've already checked this one. The front one up here, you want to check those. Couple other things on here. The brake pads on this one were worn out. I had to replace the backs. The front ones were okay. Wouldn't hurt to check your sprocket bolts on the wheel there. Make sure they're all right. This one had a K&N filter on it. I washed it and cleaned it. Typically, I'll pull it out and wash it hot soapy water. Really good, as hot as it can stand it. With like Dawn works good, or if you're industrious and you buy the K&N kit, it's got a spray cleaner in there you can use. Don't over oil it. Just a light dusting of oil on the filter is all you need. Check your front brakes. back brakes, belt. This one, I'm going to pull the wheels off the back here and pack the bearings in it for that trike kit. Other than that, just check the fasteners around it. Check your battery for tightness. Cables down here and at the top. Check the charging system, just throw a meter on your battery when it's running. You should have about 14.5, 14.7, and you'll see if it goes 14.7, it'll stop there and kind of kick back to like 14.6. So you know the regulator's kicking off when it does that. Just normal stuff. This is stuff that people miss all the time. Stuff like this, top motor mount. Clutch adjustment. A lot of people just keep adjusting the cable until it burns the clutch up because they never actually adjusted the clutch. Steering head bearings. These baggers, you jack it up and do a fall away on it or a swing. I think it should swing back. Take the cable off and the front end jacked up. It should, I think 3 times. You just take it to lock and then let it fly, and it should 1, 2, 3 and center back up in the center on the bagger. Or any other models, you do a fall away, and it should be like 1 to 2 inches fall away. And your neck bearings, if you got a Zerk fitting on there on these things, don't overpack it. I've had guys run an entire tube of damn grease on there, and then they're driving down the road in the summertime and grease is flying everywhere, and they think they got an oil leak. The entire front of the tank could be coated with grease that's gotten hot and just flying back. Other than that, probably pull the axles out. I'm not pulling them on this thing because I just did tires on this not that long ago. And grease them. Grease the axles, front and rear, which is a lot better than 10K service is pretty idiot proof now. You don't do half the shit you used to do on them. Used to be every 10K we had to peel the wheels off, pull the bearings out, clean them and repack them and put new seals in. We change the fork oil every 10,000 miles. If it has spoke wheels, you definitely need to check the spoke tightness on there. This is mag, so there's nothing to check on a mag really. Check your exhaust tightness on baggers here. If you get a little chirp out of the exhaust there, it's usually them rear mounts on the bags are worn out. They're cheap enough. Just put new ones on there and it'll quit chirping. Speaking of chirps, if your belt's really loose, especially in the rain, when you decel, you'll hear it chirping, or where the belt's hitting the starter drive jack shaft because it's really too loose. And really, the only time you really hear it is when it's wet. That's when it chirps. Or if you look at the center of the belt and you see a line down the center of it, where it's been rubbing on something, it's been hitting the starter jack shaft, which is prevalent especially on lowered bikes. This one was lowered and had to jack it up for the guy. Had to lower it for, he's kind of vertically challenged, we'll say. And he had no problem doing the bike, but when his wife would get on there, kind of teeter-tottering, so found this Voyager slip-on trike kit on there and then jacked it back up in the ass end because he didn't have to have it that low anymore. And this one doesn't have a kickstand on it because we took it off because it doesn't need it because of the trike. You can shoot some white lithium grease down in where the jack stand goes. You should be good. And that's about it, other than changing fluids. Good and hot. Ride it probably 20-30 minutes before you dump the fluids. Come back, let it get hot, dump the oil, dump the transmission, dump the primary, and fill them back up with your choice of whatever oil you're using. I'm using AMSOIL in this thing, in the transmission and the motor. and the primary specific, transmission specific. You know, they say you can run whatever, SIN 3 or whatever, it's supposed to be good in all three holes, but I gotta tell you, I'm kind of leery of that stuff. Running it in a transmission. It's kind of lightweight for transmission oil. Not kind of, it is lightweight for transmission oil. Doesn't have the shear strength of the transmission fluid, gear oil. You want to run synthetic, run synthetic. You want to run dinosaur oil, run that, whatever. Just don't overfill it. I'll drain this. I'll put about 3.5 quarts in there, start it, run it, ride it, then come back and check it. If it needs to be topped off a little bit, top it off a little bit. On these things at highway speeds, if you overfill the oil or even run it full, or it says full, at highway speeds, you know, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, it'll start dumping oil out the breathers, and you get a shitload of oil coming out of the air cleaner. So just run it a little bit lower. Been doing it for years, no problems. When I say years, I mean like over 30 years, running them a little bit lower on oil. Check your foot peg mounts here, your footboards. Check the pins on those. Sometimes they come out. You want to grab your torque wrench, torque the caliper bolts, retorque your axles. Now, I notice what a lot of guys do, they have problems doing the front wheel for whatever reason. And it's really a damn simple procedure. Slide the axle through, tighten the axle, and if you have to, tighten these pinch bolts on this side over here. Tighten the axle, and then whatever you do, remember to release the pressure on these pinch bolts. If you don't, what happens, it actually, you tighten it down. When you tighten the axle, it pulls this entire fork leg to the left there, and you'll start dragging the damn brakes. And before you know it, you done warped the rotor. So that's good on that. Check your fluid levels on your brakes, front and rear. Just check all your fasteners, really. That's about it. And this thing, if you have an older one, not too old, you have an older twin cam, at about 40,000 miles, you probably want to pull the cam cover off and take a look at the tensioners. Usually about 40,000 miles is it, although I have had them go earlier. And I've had them go a hell of a lot longer. I think the quickest I seen one go, I had to do them at 3,700 miles on a softail one time. It's pretty noisy. And, you know, you're not expecting to go 3,700 miles. I mean, that was under warranty. But it happens. Of course, I did one on 99 one time that those 99 and 2000 were like bad years because they were still using 2-ball bearings or the cams. And I know this guy bought the bike new in 99, and probably about maybe 8 years later, he had almost just under 100,000 miles on it, and wanted to put some cams in there, and pulled it apart, and still had the original shit in there, stock cams, the stock tensioners, stock chains, everything. Tensioners looked almost brand new, and he ain't never been into it, so it's just luck of the draw with that. As for all the rest of them, they went out pretty early, and that was upgrading the bearings, new cams, when they did that new oil pump, all that crap. But that's about it. Just check all your fasteners, change your fluids, check the bolts, motor mounts. Just throw a wrench on everything pretty much, and that's about it for this. Thank you. If you like my channel, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification, all that jazz. Have a good day. Thank you.